So it's not always the style of communication. So no style is better than another, but what you say and how you say it to those individuals does matter, right? So, for instance, how many of you would say that you are driven more by emotion and feeling versus data and analytics? So you're emotion people. So you want a story, essentially, that says, I feel we're off to a good start. Sales are great this quarter. You'd be sold with that. You'd be okay with that. Versus, we're off to a great start this quarter, and our sales are up by 10% year over year. Which story would you want? How many of you want the emotion story? How many of you want the analytics story? Yeah. So you need to know your audience from that perspective. You also need to know your audience from the, how many of you want the whole and entire story? How we got from A to B to C. Versus, how many of you just want to get to the point, which is Z, right? Great sales, they're up, 10% done, no questions. Or is it, so this year we launched a new product and our sales are up by 10% because we did X, Y, Z, we invested in our business. How many of you would rather want the whole and entire long tail story, A to B to C, versus get to the point and be done with it? So which one, how many of you want the whole story, the story? Okay? How many of you want get to the point? I just want to know what you were talking about. Yeah. So you can see there's a mix of the room, right? Like you guys are kind of split. And you need to make sure that anytime you are presenting to somebody, you know what their mindset is. So it's not about your mindset, and we'll go over mindsets, which I really wish we could pull up here because that's actually the hardest part. But there are four. There's an analytical mindset. That's the person that we talked about that really just wants to get to the stats. Tell me the stats. Why does it matter, right? There's the intuitive person. It's a little bit more gut reaction. I need to know that it feels right to me. There's the functional person. Tell me how it's going to get done. And then there's the personal person. I want to, like, that's the person that's really about the emotional, touchy side of the story. I tend to fall into the functional and personal side of the story. I want to make sure that it relates back to the individual, because that's how I like to be talked about. What is it going to mean to me? And how is it going to actually, how are we going to get there? However, if I went and talked to somebody that was like an analyst, and all they wanted was the numbers, and I told the story in the way that I'd want to tell the story, it would fall on deaf ears. They wouldn't care because I wasn't getting the points across that they needed to make the decision. So that's really why knowing your audience is the first step to creating a good presentation. So they're the four personas. The first one's analytical. And analytical, if you are analytical, you prefer real hard data, and you are suspicious of people who aren't in command of the facts or data. For example, when someone tells you the result is positive, you'd rather know the percentage or number associated with that statement versus just that it is a positive outcome. You like communications to be unemotional, and you look at issues logically. So the positive perception for you is others see you as having high levels of data and informational expertise. However, if this is your sort of personality and how you want information, you can often strike people as being very cold and unfeeling. So if all you did was present to somebody who ultimately wanted a personal story, and you're sitting here with a data-first story, they're going to feel like you don't really care about them or how they really want to digest information. So the intuitive person is the big picture thinker. Again, a little bit more of the gut reaction here. If you're an intuitive thinker, you like the big picture and avoid getting bogged down in details. I'm going to wait till that comes down so you guys can hear me. All right. You do not need to hear things in a linear order as long as you understand the point. Interactions where you are forced to listen to things step by step drive you nuts. You're quick and to the point, and your discussions, perfect. Your discussions and often are comfortable and with out-of-the-box thinking. So people think of you as clear and inspiring. However, you might not have the patience or attention span to deal with situations that actually require people getting into the nitty-gritty detail. So a lot of times you'll see, yes, put this back up there, perfect. Great. So a lot of times, like I said, I work in an advertising agency. How many of you guys work in like a PR agency or an advertising agency where you're working with creatives on a regular basis? What the heck just happened? Well, like it was working. How many of you work in creative agencies? Anybody? Anybody? Yeah. So a lot of times you'll see that the big picture person is the creative director. He just wants a big idea and it's like really intuitive, it's great. And then he's got to go pitch it to a client, and the client wants the process and wants to understand how you got there, and that's sometimes hard for these people to deal with, right? They just want to share, okay, wait, it works, it works, it works, it's totally fine. You guys can all see that, right? Okay, cool, okay. So then getting into like the nitty-gritty detail can sometimes be pretty frustrating.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks. The functional person, so they're process and order. They want to know, these are the people that want to know the story from A to B to C to Z, right? They want to know every single step in that process. So you like process, you like detail, you like timelines, and well thought out plans. You communicate in a step-by-step way so nothing gets missed, and hate people skipping things that are important to you. You're often the person who is asked to play devil's advocate, so you get all of the details accounted for. So your positive perception of how others see you is that you're the implementer and that they have confidence that you'll get the process and details done. However, on the negative side, you may also lose attention of your audience, especially those that are the big picture thinkers. So you can kind of see how some of these don't play off each other. Personal, this is really around human connections. The great thing here that I always say about the person who wants this is sometimes what you're really trying to seek at is what is their motivation. So a lot of times in my job, I'm trying to understand what my client's motivation is around why they want to do a certain campaign or why they want a certain piece of content to go live. And a lot of times it might be that they just want to impress their boss. It might be that they're looking for a promotion. It might be that it's all politics and they're just as frustrated as you. And so you need to sometimes play to that human connection and truly understand what their motivation is. So if this is the way you, this is your personality, you value emotional language and connection and you use it to discover what others are thinking. You value not just how people think, but how they feel as well. You're a good listener and a diplomat, often smoothing over conflicts. So the positive perception is that others see you as the glue that holds groups together, and you can read vibes, so you really truly are intuitive in the human connection with individuals. The negative is you also may be seen as too touchy-feely with your communication and not taken seriously by those that value data and logic. So this is really kind of how they play out. So the ones on the bottom are kind of the slower storylines versus the ones at the top are a little bit faster, trying to get through it. And then the ones on the left are facts, and the ones on the right are people-oriented. Now, these two play together, top to bottoms play together. What don't play together is an intuitive person and a functional person, or an analytical person and a personal person. Does that make sense? Cool. So you typically will fall into one of these four categories. You may fall into a couple of them, but you typically will be leaning toward one category over the other. So let's have a show of hands. How many people think they're analytical? Okay. A couple of you. How many people think you're intuitive? Okay. Functional. You want the story and the process. Okay. Personal. All right. Pretty pretty actually good split here. So we're going to do a little exercise. If you're analytical, stand up. All right, go to the back corner. You guys are going to be a group. Okay, you're one group. If you are intuitive, stand up. Great. You guys can take a seat. I'm just trying to get you into groups. All right. I'm going to split you guys into two groups, so you three and you three. And you guys can go in the back corner, and then if you guys want to go in the middle over there, that's fine. Cool. Okay. Functionals. And then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of you. Okay, we'll keep you guys in one group. So you can kind of go in the middle back there. And then are the rest of you all personal? Personal? Yeah, Jess, you're definitely a personal. Cool. Okay, so if it's just the 4 of you are personals and 5, okay, you guys can kind of stay in one group. You guys want to come to the front. All right. Cool. Awesome. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes, and you're going to come up with a storyline to sell me a mint chocolate chip frappuccino. Okay? So we're going to do this in, we've got our analytical people are you guys in the back. Okay. So you guys are going to craft a story around around analytics. Okay? First and foremost, you're going to craft your story around analytics. All right? Where's my personals? You guys here? You guys are going to craft a story as if you're pitching to a personal person. Okay? Ignore that up there. I'm doing it differently. Where's my functionals? Functionals? Okay. So you guys are going to craft a story around the functional person with respect to selling me the frappuccino. And then, do we have 2 intuitive groups? Okay, perfect. So you guys are both going to come up with stories from an intuitive perspective. All right? So remember, analytics wants stats, personal wants that human connection, functional wants the process, and intuitive wants kind of that gut reaction. All right? So I'm going to give you guys like 5 minutes. Come up